I'm good to go?
You are
You're good to go. I'm on the X here.
the non-existent X.
Sebaslasgan, which is Smolyak, which translates to the cedar mat has been laid, and you are welcome in my house. I would like to acknowledge that Terrace sits on the traditional territory of the Tsimshian people, the Kitsalis and the Kitsimkalim. Canada, welcome to Northwest BC, and Terrace specifically. Terrace is the epicenter for all the major projects in Northwest BC. If it's LNG Canada, Cedar LNG, Ksi Lisims LNG, Brunswick Mine, Red Chris Mine, all the other mining projects that are going on in the Tahltan Nation and the Golden Triangle, the Port of Prince Rupert and all the projects that are going on in Rupert as well. We are ready to work together to build a strong Canada. It is now my great privilege to introduce someone whose leadership and vision has inspired confidence both here and across the country. So on behalf of the City of Terrace, Northwest BC, I would like to welcome the Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable Mark Carney. We appreciate you taking the time to travel here, and welcome to Terrace. Tuiksuk Noon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you very much, Mayor Boytash. Good morning. Bonjour. Bonjour tout le monde. It is a great pleasure to be here in beautiful BC, beautiful Terrace this morning, to be joined as well by Minister Robertson and to be joined by the CEO of the Major Projects Office, Dawn Farrell. I'd like to acknowledge the representatives of the Gitxalas First Nation, the Kitsukalim First Nations, and recognize that we are here on the traditional territory of the Tsimshian people. I'd like to acknowledge other representatives of other First Nations communities who've gathered with us today and whom we honor. The reason for this meeting is to announce the second group, the second tranche of major projects that will be referred to what's known as the Major Projects Office. Let me talk a bit about those projects and what they're here for. They're here to reinforce our nation. They are part of nation-building strategies to transform our economies, but to build all nations, to build Canada and to build First Nations. They are strategies that will make our country more independent, more inclusive, more sustainable, and yes, more prosperous. Parce que nous sommes dans une situation où le monde évolue rapidement. Les changements technologiques s'accélèrent. La transition axée sur l'énergie verte gagne rapidement de terrain et transforme la demande mondiale en ressources. Et les États-Unis ont fondamentalement changé leur approche au commerce, ce qui menace des emplois et plonge les entreprises canadiennes dans un climat d'incertitude. We're in a situation because of all these changes in the world that many of our historic strengths, based on close ties with the United States, have become our vulnerabilities. We just released a budget last week. And in that budget, we estimate that the U.S. tariffs and the associated uncertainty that they're causing will cost the Canadian people about 1.8% of our GDP. Now, let me translate that into real numbers. That's about $50 billion lost from our economy. It's the equivalent of $1,300 for every woman, man, and child in this country. That's because the world, U.S., is changing rapidly. And so we must change our strategy dramatically. And we're doing that by drawing on our legacy as builders, a legacy forged for long by the people of British Columbia. Throughout our history, Canadians have built major projects that define our landscape and underwrite our prosperity. Projects like the railway that united the Maritimes around the time of Confederation. Projects like the Canadian Pacific Railway that helped bring British Columbia into Confederation. The Trans-Canada Highway that linked our nation. The St. Lawrence Seaway that has opened up new markets in the East for over $1 trillion of cargo and counting. We used to build in this country, and we are building our nation again. One of the first things that Canada's new government did was to pass something called the Building Canada Act. That was back in June. And this law changes the government's approach to building major projects from why to how. Those projects are projects that strengthen Canada's autonomy, our independence, strengthen our resilience, strengthen our security. They're projects that provide major economic benefits to Canadians, ones that have a high likelihood of success. Crucially, they are projects that advance the interests of Indigenous peoples. And they have to be projects that contribute to sustainable, clean growth. And the Major Projects Office is helping to build Canada smarter and quicker, fast-tracking infrastructure that we need to unlock our country's immense resources and potential. And in this way, we'll build our communities, grow new businesses, and create tens of thousands of new careers in sustainable industries. Back in September, in Edmonton, we referred projects that represent more than $60 billion in investment. And today, we're going to announce some projects that will double that impact. The budget that I referenced a moment ago, the budget of last week, reinforces our mission to build Canada strong. It's our plan so that Canadians take full control of our future. It's a plan to move from over-reliance on one trading partner, the United States, to resilience to global shocks. It's a plan to replace uncertainty with prosperity. Nous prenons notre avenir en main en bâtissant une seule économie canadienne qui sera propulsée par de nouvelles infrastructures, afin de relier nos régions, de diversifier nos marchés, de ramener les logements à des coûts abordables et de protéger nos communautés. Au cours des 5 prochaines années, nous allons réaliser 1 000 milliards de dollars en investissement. À lui seul, le total de cet investissement suffira à augmenter notre PIB de plus de 3,5%, soit 3 500 dollars par chaque travailleur canadien. In other words, these projects that we're catalyzing, $1 trillion of investment in total over the next 5 years. That's $3,500 for every Canadian worker, twice what the Americans are taking away. Each of the projects that we're referring to the Major Projects Office today, in and of itself, is transformational. But the bigger point is that their impacts will be amplified by being part of bigger national strategies to boost Canada's competitiveness, including to realize our country's full potential as an energy superpower, by creating new trade and economic corridors that diversify our economy, projects that help build Canada's leadership in critical minerals to increase our independence, and also projects that we won't discuss today, but projects that establish our data sovereignty so Canadians can be served safely and securely online. Now, Canada, let me start with our position as an energy superpower. We're starting to realize our full potential in both conventional, i.e. oil and gas, and clean energies. LNG is an essential fuel for the energy transition. LNG can help Canada build new trading relationships, especially in fast-growing markets in Asia. By 2040, it's estimated the global LNG demand will rise by 60%, and Canada will be ready. We're home to the world's 4th largest reserves of natural gas, and we have the potential to supply up to 100 million tons annually of new LNG exports to Asia. But that will require major investment across a wide range of infrastructure. And to encourage that investment, the budget provides new tax incentives to encourage the world's lowest carbon, I'll repeat, the world's lowest carbon LNG facilities. And the budget also expands the Canadian Infrastructure Bank's ability to support projects like Ksi Lisims LNG. Ksi Lisims comprises a new gas pipeline, a new electricity transmission line, and a new floating LNG export facility. Led by the Niska Nation under President Ava Clayton, Ksi Lisims will become Canada's second largest LNG facility with a capacity to export 12 million tons of LNG every year to new markets. It'll also be one of the world's cleanest LNG operations, with emissions an incredible 94% below the global average, and with the potential to reach net zero by the end of this decade, all while creating thousands of skilled careers and $4 billion contributions annually to our GDP. The federal government has been working closely with the province of British Columbia in the development of this project, most notably through a one project, one review environmental assessment process and associated consultations, led by the province. In addition to consulting on the financing of Ksi Lisims, the Major Project Office will also help coordinate timely approvals of all three elements of the project and the related transmission infrastructure that I'll discuss in a moment. Now, more broadly, taking a step back from LNG, core to becoming an energy superpower will be to fully capitalize on Canada's advantage in clean energy by substantially expanding our clean electricity grid. Over 80% of the electric power we produce in the country, it's higher obviously in British Columbia, but in the country as a whole, is clean. The point is, clean electrification is the path. It's the only path to building a sustainable, prosperous economy. D'ici 2050, nos besoins en électricité pourraient tripler dû à la croissance économique et à l'augmentation de la demande pour les transports propres, aux processus industriels verts et aux centres de données. Et pour répondre à cette demande, nous aurons besoin davantage de capacités hydroélectriques, solaires, éoliennes et nucléaires. Et nous aurons besoin de nouvelles interconnexions entre les systèmes provinciaux pour créer un réseau énergétique canadien efficace, robuste et durable. We can unlock enormous economic opportunities by connecting and creating a sustainable grid, including right here in northern British Columbia. So our government is launching a transformational strategy to develop that clean energy, including through new investment tax credits for clean electricity, through something we just introduced in the budget called the Productivity Super Deduction, which provides for immediate expensing of clean electricity generation and conservation equipment. The Canadian Infrastructure Bank plans to invest $10 billion in clean power projects, and there will be federal support for provincial transmission links. We also see that nuclear power will play an important role in scaling clean generation, and the Minister of Natural Resources will lead our new nuclear strategy, working with the provinces, including the Government of Ontario, to deploy small modular reactors and tens of gigawatts of new utility-scale nuclear capacity. Canada, of course you know this in BC, Canada has a long tradition of using hydropower to unlock economic activity. That's true here, it's true in Quebec with Hydro-Quebec, it's true even in my home province of Alberta with the Brazeau Dam, which was the start of our industrial development. In that spirit, today we're referring the Iqaluit Nukkiksautiit Hydro Project to the Major Projects Office. This is a breakthrough. This is a breakthrough for Arctic sovereignty and sustainability. It will be a 100% Inuit-owned hydro energy project. It will save $1.9 billion in diesel costs over the next 50 years while providing affordable, reliable, emissions-free power in the Arctic. Now that's elements of the energy superpower strategy. The second strategy is to develop new trade and economic corridors that help us diversify our markets and build our independence. And this is the potential of the Northwest Critical Conservation Corridor that we're also referring today to the Major Projects Office. The Northwest Corridor has extraordinary potential to unlock critical minerals development, clean power transmission, all under Indigenous leadership. We're talking tens of billions of dollars of investments, and in parallel, creating a new conservation area the size of Greece. The corridor involves building new transmission lines, upgrading highways, installing fiber and cell towers, and investing in communities, ports, and railways. By doing so, we'll strengthen our position as a global leader in clean energy and a leader in critical minerals. Now, what's crucial for this is the North Coast transmission line, one of the reasons we're here at BC Hydro. It's required to unlock this potential. And to help get it going, the Canada Infrastructure Bank is today announcing a loan of $140 million to BC Hydro. The North Coast transmission line will enable transformative industrial projects, including Ksi Lisims LNG, as well as multiple critical minerals developments in the Golden Triangle. The transmission line alone has the potential to create $10 billion in new economic activity in this area, while reducing emissions by up to 3 million tons annually. But more broadly, the Northwest Transmission Line will anchor clean energy industrial corridor for generations. And it has the potential to be connected with the Yukon through the Yukon-BC Grid Connect that will increase the Yukon's energy security and affordability, as well as there's the potential for an interconnect with Alberta to optimize reliability and sustainability in that province. Now, with respect to critical minerals, by 2050, global demand for those minerals is expected to increase fivefold, 5 times. The problem is, at present, the supply of those resources is highly concentrated in one country, and it's very risky. What the world wants is Canada to be the reliable supplier of critical minerals as the world moves to building a more sustainable economy. We're already amongst the top 5 global producers for 10 different critical minerals, and we hold rich geological endowment of all 34. But unlocking these resources through projects in the Ring of Fire in Ontario, La Fosse de Labrador in Quebec and Labrador, and right here, or almost right here, in the Golden Triangle in northern BC, this will attract hundreds of billions of dollars in new investment and create thousands of high-paying, not just jobs, careers, thousands of high-paying careers for miners, carpenters, engineers, and beyond across this country. The federal government is committed that these opportunities are realized in full partnership, including with equity ownership with First Nations communities. The Ring of Fire alone, to give an example, in Ontario, has the potential to add over $22 billion to Canada's GDP over 30 years, while advancing growth in partnership with local Indigenous communities. So we put together a critical minerals strategy that will encourage exploration, accelerate project development, support essential infrastructure from the first mile to the mines and the processing facilities to new trade corridors and ports that open up global markets. Our strategy will support clean power development, as we see here, while providing greater price certainty and competitive financing to the developers to encourage the long-term investments that we need and the world needs. La semaine passée, le ministre des Ressources naturelles a annoncé 26 nouveaux investissements, partenariats et mesures visant à mettre en œuvre des projets de minéraux critiques pour que de 6 milliards de dollars. Cette initiative va notamment permettre de libérer l'énorme potentiel de développement et d'exploitation qu'offre le cercle de feu. Et le gouvernement du Canada et le gouvernement de l'Ontario s'intensifient justement leur pourparlers en ce moment pour accélérer ces démarches. The budget makes major investments to advance critical minerals projects, including a $2 billion critical minerals sovereign fund for those projects and a $1.5 billion first and last mile fund for related infrastructure, as well as expanded tax credits for investments. So here in the Golden Triangle, you can see where those applications would come once we build the transmission. In this context, we're referring to the Major Projects Office, Canada Nickel's Crawford project in Ontario, the Nouveau Monde Graphite Matawinie mine in Quebec, and the Northcliff Resources Sisson Mine in New Brunswick. To say a few words about each. Crawford will anchor Canada's global leadership in clean industrial materials. It is situated in the world's second largest nickel reserve. It'll produce high-quality, low-carbon nickel, essential for batteries and green steel. Its projected emissions are 90% below the global average, and it has the potential for a net negative carbon footprint. Crawford will set the global standard for the future of responsible mining. The Sisson mine in New Brunswick will produce tungsten, the strongest metal in the world, and it will position Canada as a reliable supplier for steel manufacturing, defense, and protective equipment. Et enfin, la mine Matawinie de Nouveau Monde Graphite va transformer les chaînes mondiales d'approvisionnement en batteries. Et ce projet va s'intégrer à l'usine de matériaux de batteries de Bécancour afin de produire de graphite sphérique utilisé dans des batteries de véhicules électriques et les systèmes de stockage d'énergie. Et tout cela sera entièrement alimenté par l'électricité propre du Québec. Le projet va permettre de réduire les sources fortes en carbone, de renforcer la résilience canadienne en matière d'approvisionnement et de contribuer à l'accélération de la transition énergétique. En plus, il va attirer 1,8 milliard de dollars en investissement. Now, I've talked a lot about building and specifics of what we're going to build together. But today is not just about what we build, it's also about how we build. We're building sustainably, in each case reducing emissions and investing in a clean energy future. Our energy and critical minerals projects are amongst the lowest carbon in the world. And moreover, they unlock major investments in sustainable growth for generations to come. Secondly, we're building in solidarity with Canadian workers, creating hundreds of thousands of high-paying union jobs. And we are always building in partnership with Indigenous peoples to ensure meaningful Indigenous ownership and major economic benefits, while promoting the conservation of our natural heritage for future generations. This approach reinforces that the impacts of our nation-building strategies, just like those that came before us, that these impacts will be generational. Consider my earlier reference to that railway in the Maritimes. It was built around the time of Confederation to move goods and troops there, to assert Canada's independence and help unite a young country. But that line eventually became part of the Canadian National Railway, which now spans more than 31,000 kilometers across this vast land, reaching here to Terrace and from Terrace to the world. That line moves $250 billion of cargo each year and employs nearly 25,000 Canadians. Its infrastructure is old as our nation itself, and it drives this huge economic activity across the country, employing tens of thousands of Canadians and uniting our nation. That's the power of nation-building projects. Projects that Canadians have built before, and projects that we are starting together to build again. Building Terrace strong, building BC strong, building Canada strong. Thank you very much. Merci, and I look forward to your questions. Thanks.
Nous allons maintenant commencer les questions. We'll now begin with the questions. Please limit yourself to one question, one follow-up. First question.
Excuse me. Hi there. Aaron MacArthur from Global News. There's been a considerable amount of Indigenous opposition to fast-tracking We see with Ksi Lisims, there's 2 legal challenges already.
Yeah.
Does the Major Projects Office and the fast-tracking legislation run into conflict with Indigenous groups and rights and title?
That's certainly not the approach that we're taking. We're providing several things. One is the forum to bring together parties and to bring together all supports available to a project, to work in concert with the province, in the case of Ksi Lisims, to work with the province of British Columbia, which we have done, so that there is one process for the consultations and support. The second thing that it does, and I'll come back to the consultation and support in a second. Second thing it does, very importantly, is that the federal government is putting on the table huge financing for Indigenous equity ownership. So we're moving to a different nature of these projects, from benefits to the communities, which there has to be, benefits in construction, benefits as they, when they're operating for Indigenous communities, but to have true equity ownership that is financed by the federal government. And that ownership position is put in place. That also helps with the process and ensures that they are fair and just. We're encouraged with respect to Ksi Lisims in terms of the scale of Indigenous support across various groups, support, obviously the Niska, but more broadly across potential pipeline route, as well as the transmission route. But the process moves forward. We work in concert with all parties, and we make things possible. We don't dictate where projects are going to go in the end. Parties decide. Pardon? En français, tout cela, ou juste vers le... OK, d'accord, je vais choisir les mots. On a des consultations avec, en étroite collaboration avec la province de la Colombie-Britannique, avec des peuples autochtones. Nous sommes encouragés par le soutien de plusieurs Premières Nations pour le projet de Ksi Lisims, y compris ou surtout la nation Niska. Et nous pouvons et nous allons plus fortement, nous allons fournir le financement pour les positions de ownership des Premières Nations dans le projet. Mais c'est un processus et c'est une consultation et ça va dérouler comme cela. D'accord?
I do have a follow-up.
Yeah.
Can you talk about specifics of how the MPO will move projects forward? I looked at the Crawford Nickel project, for
Yeah.
example. It's 3 years into its approval process. The Impact Assessment Agency doesn't begin its work until next year. How exactly does the MPO move that project forward?
Okay. Well, the answer to that is standing behind me. Would you want to take this, Dawn, or do you want? I think she came all the way here. I think we should let the CEO of the Major Projects Office answer that.
Yeah, thank you. So for many of our projects, they've been in development for quite a while, and there's a lot of work as you get to the end of the line and you need to pull things over. So for projects like Crawford, we're working to come up with processes where we can run all the permitting in parallel, so that we're not doing it sequentially. So something that might have taken 5 or 6 more years can now take 2 years. We're working with them to ensure that they have the proper pricing that they need in order to support the project, because as the Prime Minister has talked about, there are other jurisdictions that are trying to keep prices really low, so that jurisdictions like Canada don't purchase. We're making sure they've got enough certainty so that they can do the financing. So that's a combination of working with the Infrastructure Bank and the Canada Growth Fund, but also working with others to see how we can crowd in some private financing for them. And then the tough stuff is to ensure that when they get into the construction component of it, that we work with our labor group to make sure there's availability of labor, that there are kinds of, there's the way that the permitting happens during construction works in a very slick and efficient way, so that we can do the construction and build the projects in the time frame they should be built in without cutting corners. You can't cut corners, but there's a lot of efficiencies that can be gained so that those projects can then, deliver their operational capacity within a shorter time frame. So our job is all about making sure that people get across the line, get everything they need to get built on time and on budget, and ensure that Canadians have competitive mines, competitive pipelines, competitive LNG facilities, because the world only pays a certain price for our goods, and we need to meet them at those prices.
Next question, Ksi.
Hey there, Andrew Johnson with CTV National News. Prime Minister, where do negotiations stand with Alberta on the so-called grand bargain? Premier Danielle Smith was hoping to achieve a deal by the Grey Cup on new energy projects. Is that going to happen?
We call it a memorandum of understanding, as does the Premier. Those discussions are going well. We're encouraged I'm personally encouraged by the progress that we're making. There's a few more issues that we're working on ironing out, and looking forward to that progress over the course of the coming weeks. This is a very important process for the province, for the country. It's related in many respects to what we're talking about today in terms of some aspects of this are for major investments that will help build Alberta strong, build Canada strong, make us more independent and more prosperous. We want to make sure we're doing it right. I will reference one thing, if I could just bring it back, and then I'll hand it back to you for your follow-up. In terms of, because we're here talking about the Major Projects Office and these big projects, one of the first bits of work that the Major Projects Office is very much engaged in is around the Pathways Project and major carbon capture and storage. This is a huge opportunity for Canada to develop a new industry, to have decarbonized oil and gas, and it is very much part of these discussions that we're having with Alberta. How do we move that forward, part and parcel with other aspects? Sur les discussions, je suis encouragé par le progrès. Il y a encore quelques enjeux, mais il y a des discussions efficaces, amicables, productives, mais ça va prendre un certain temps. OK? D'accord.
Premier Smith is clear in her demands. She wants a new oil pipeline, and she wants your government to eliminate laws she views as inhibiting investment in infrastructure. What are you asking of the Premier?
We're many things, and as I say, it's a productive discussion, meeting minds. We're looking for a major investment that puts, amongst other things, Alberta, puts the industry, puts the country in a position for the energy future. And the future of energy, clean and conventional, is low risk. Canada's low risk. It's low cost, and it's low carbon. And you look again at the Ksi Lisims as an example. Top decile, one of the most environmentally sustainable LNG projects, rightly proud of that. With respect to the emissions intensity of oil and gas, the intention is to get that down substantially. That has been falling. We have the opportunity to do that, and we need to do that in concert, as well as in concert. I'll say one other thing, and we'll pass on, is making our industrial carbon markets, the tier market in Alberta, work more effectively. And that's an important element for future investment certainty going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question.
Caroline Bargout with CBC News. My question is similar to my colleague Aaron's question. 2 months ago you announced the initial batch of major projects. How has being on that list helped those projects move along?
Yeah. Okay. So, and there'll be a bit of overlap with, not surprising, with what Don Farrell said. Part of it is moving in parallel as opposed to moving sequentially. I mean, part of the reason why a number of projects in the past have taken a decade or so before a decision is made whether to move forward. There's a term, as I'm sure you know, in building final investment decision. Well, you don't take the final investment decision of whether to put shovels in the ground, metaphorically or physically, until you know whether you've got the regulatory approvals, some idea of what the financing terms are going to be, who's going to buy potentially the product, those aspects. Well, the answers, whether you're going to get the environmental assessment, who your partners are going to be, and how can they participate fully in the projects. What being part of the this process is, from the federal government's perspective, is to move our contributions to all of those aspects, to speed them up, to move them in parallel, with provincial governments. I'll give you another example, which is that too often, historically, you'd have a provincial approval process, and then the federal approval process would start. But different federal departments would start their approval processes at different times and not take into account what others were doing. So with respect to the projects that have come over, we're moving much faster. We're moving in parallel. There's a single window for the people who are working on these projects to see all of the financing support. There's a single window for Indigenous peoples working with the federal government. Again, it's not the entire picture, but it's an important part of the picture to move that forward. And it moves these projects more quickly to the decision whether they move forward or not. And I can tell you personally, from my experience in the last 2 months, just dealing with the proponents, it is very much appreciated.
My second question is, a number of First Nations oppose some of these projects, and some of the chiefs will be holding a press conference after this. What do you say to them, and how do you square pushing ahead with these projects in terms of reconciliation when there's so many nations that oppose them?
Well, let's be clear what's happening today. We are referring projects to the Major Projects Office so that all of the work is done, so that all of the information for that decision that I just referenced, the final investment decision for these projects, is available. And a crucial component of that, I don't mind repeating myself about this because it's essential, is full First Nations partnership and participation. Okay? And that comes with the knowledge of what the terms of the project are, what the possibilities are for that participation, and this is the single window that provides it. Referring to the MPO, the Major Projects Office, does not mean the project is approved. It means that all the efforts are being put in place from the federal government in order to create the conditions so it could move forward. But those decisions are taken by many parties, including very much First Nations.
So if the First Nations continue to oppose them, then there's a chance these projects will not go through?
Well, we'll see the decisions they're taking. But I underscore that when we speak to, with respect to Ksi Lisims, which is a multi-phase project or multi-aspect project, the very considerable support that exists already for that, and it links into a broader strategy that becomes available in the Northwest Critical Conservation Corridor, including considerable conservation in the area as well. So it is linked. There are many parties, and all of those parties have to be taken into account.
Next question, prochaine question.
Yeah.
Bonjour.
Enfin.
Julie
Oui.
Landry,
Oui.
Radio-Canada. Donc, ces grands projets qui sont déjà été annoncés et ceux d'aujourd'hui sont tous des projets à long terme. À partir de quand on va voir les retombées économiques de ces projets-là?
C'est une bonne question. Alors, en ce qui concerne la stratégie économique du gouvernement du Canada, si on cherche des retombées, des impacts immédiats, des impacts actuels, c'était le cas avec la réduction des impôts pour 22 millions de Canadiens. Chaque Canadien et Canadien qui paie les impôts du Canada a reçu, ou sont en train de recevoir, une réduction de leurs impôts, première chose. Deuxièmement, on a et en même temps, dans le budget, nous avons protégé tous les politiques de santé, toutes les politiques sociales, tout le filet social de notre grand pays. Ça, c'est important pour les impacts immédiats dans l'économie. Deuxièmement, en ce qui concerne les investissements dans l'infrastructure, Je suis ici avec Monsieur le ministre de l'Infrastructure et de Logement. Et avec Maison Canada, une nouvelle initiative du gouvernement, on va créer les impacts à court terme, pas immédiat, mais à court terme. Et à ce moment-ci, c'est plus de 4 000 et demi environ maisons qui sont en train de développement. Là, il y a des impacts là. Et troisième point, et je vais retourner la parole à vous, mais le troisième point, dans le budget, par exemple, nous avons réduit les impôts pour les entreprises qui investissent dans notre pays avec les super déductions. Et nous sommes dans une position maintenant où, pour les investissements, les vrais investissements dans le Canada, l'impôt sur les investissements est presque 5 points plus bas au Canada par rapport aux États-Unis. C'est un grand moment d'investir ici au Canada. Et à cause de cela, il y aura des retombées ici au Canada à court terme. Mais les grands projets, oui, vous avez raison. Les grands projets, ils sont des grands projets pour une raison. Ils sont des grands projets à moyen et long terme. OK? Oui.
Et la deuxième question, quand vous choisissez ces projets, il y a des gagnants et des perdants. Les provinces ne s'entendent pas nécessairement toutes sur leur vision par rapport à ces projets-là ou de la façon de faire. Comment vous êtes capable de faire plaisir à tout le monde comme premier ministre canadien?
Oh, nous avons... c'est une grande question, là. Il y a plusieurs opportunités à travers le pays. Plusieurs opportunités à travers le pays. Et ça, c'est seulement le deuxième chapitre de ce processus. Il y aura d'autres. Il y aura d'autres projets. Il y a plusieurs projets qui ne sont pas assez près à ce moment-ci, mais ils vont arriver, je suis sûr. Merci. We'll get through the other ones. They don't seem that interested in my response. Okay, Madame.
Next question.
My name is Helena Sante. I report with CFTK TV News here in Terrace. I have two questions separately, but I feel like my first question has been asked already. Northern communities often say federal promises take too long to turn into action. How will this visit translate into tangible results for people living here?
Yeah, that's great. That's a very important question. So I think several things. One is that the value, and we talked a bit about this a second ago, but part of the value of this referral is for those who have done a tremendous amount of hard work in getting a project like Ksi Lisims to this point, to have greater confidence that it's going to proceed. Okay. Or with respect to the transmission line, greater confidence that it's going to proceed. That in and of itself creates more activity, first point. Secondly, what we're doing is the federal government is providing considerable financing for the further preparation of these projects. So I referenced $140 million Canada Infrastructure Bank loan as one example. The third thing is, and Mr. Mayor. The Mayor, we were talking about this, and we're going to talk about it more actually after this press conference, is that the fact that these projects have a much higher likelihood, not assured, but a higher likelihood of happening, it means that in the region we start to plan, well, who's going to work on these projects? How can we get more, if there's a need for some training or some skill development, or people from Terrace or the region who moved away who want to come back, actually we attract them back. Who else can we get to build? Because the scale of the work related to this is going to be enormous. So we are very confident in that, and we're sending not just a signal. This is real work. This is real work. It's real money. It's real momentum. And it's a huge, huge opportunity for the region, and it's a huge opportunity for the country. And I can't underscore it. Now, the main beneficiaries have to be the people of the region first and foremost, and then more broadly across the country. Just like when I referenced, the St. Lawrence Seaway being built 60 years ago, or these railways being built, it unlocks tremendous opportunities. But yes, there is immediate impact just through the work that needs to be done to move these projects to the next stage.
Thank you. I'm going to trouble you on my second question, which has been asked already.
It's all right.
The Ksi Lisims project is a big move towards your national energy goal, but there's still a lot of tension between the BC Premier, Alberta, and others who oppose on energy policy. How do you intend to bring everyone to the same table to keep Canada's energy vision united?
It hasn't been asked that well. Look, we are, and I personally, a big believer in cooperative federalism. The federal government has a role, the provinces have a role, First Nations, Indigenous peoples more broadly with the territories have central roles. We need to talk to each other. We need to understand each other's perspectives. We need to see where we can cooperate and build things. We need to acknowledge where we can't and not move forward. Part of what we're doing, and I'm very encouraged by the progress that's being made in BC, in Alberta, and yes, there are differences of opinion about certain things, but we'll continue to have those discussions, is that it is showing the scale of opportunity and ambition in this country, not just for today, but for future generations. And it's that process that will continue to bring us progress. Thank you.
We'll have time. We'll have time for 2 more questions.
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Prime Minister. Colton Bazoyan, Vista News, Prince Rupert. My question is, the Lac aux Lambs band near Prince Rupert has said they oppose both the Silicians and the potential of an Alberta bitumen pipeline, and that it would go against Tsimshian law, forcing them to oppose it. How do you work with them to accommodate their beliefs and their belief system?
Yeah. First and foremost, and let's keep to Ksi Lisims, because that's what we're talking about today. It's the proponents of those projects and their engagement. It's with the province of British Columbia. Obviously, it's with the federal government as well to understand those perspectives. If there's any accommodations that can be made for those perspectives, this creates a process that allows that to happen. Thank you.
Last question, Diane Kissel, Canadian Press.
Thanks for taking
Thank
my
you.
question. So there are some documents show the assets of the Ksi Lisims LNG will be owned by the U.S. Company, Western LNG. Why did you decide to prioritize an American-owned project? Thank you.
There's 3 aspects to this project. There is the LNG liquefaction, what is called liquefaction or export facility, which will be off Pearse Island as the current plan. There's the pipeline, where there is and there's an associated transmission line that is independent of the northern North Coast transmission line as well. And there are different ownership structures for the various aspects of the project. All aspects of the project are necessary for the project to move forward. In those regards, there are different ownership structures, as I say, including with significant Indigenous ownership. And there is support, that because they're connected, there is support. It's not universal, but there is support for the project. There is also, I'll just underscore, there are always also opportunities for adjustments for ownership structures if that is appropriate, and the federal government stands ready to facilitate those if that's appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can we have the last question?
Sure.
Just sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah.
Kind of got it from Dogwood News. Following up on,
Yeah.
on this question. So as it stands, Western LNG is the owner of the Ksi Lisims terminal, and it would be built in Korea with Korean and Chinese steel. So how much taxpayer money are we prepared to invest in a project that is American-owned and foreign built.
There is, look, there are different aspects of the project, as I said. There is the PRGT pipeline, which is necessary, which is Canadian owned, First Nation, sorry, can I finish? There is the associated transmission line that comes there. There are structures that come with projects that ensure that there is returns to taxpayers through the tax system as well. And the structure of the financing is a decision that we take with the full information of the project design. So that's part of, we answer that question with full information by doing the work, and that's what the referral to the Major Project Office facilitates. Thank you. Ouais, il y a des positions dans les trois aspects de projet de Ksi Lisims sont différents. Il y a des intérêts canadiens, des grands intérêts canadiens, des intérêts autochtones dans le projet. Il y a des différents, oui, c'est le cas avec l'usine, en effet, de liquéfaction, mais en ce qui concerne la transmission, l'oléoduc, il y a divers intérêts et nous devons prendre la décision sur le soutien ou l'approbation, surtout l'approbation du projet dans l'ensemble des intérêts du projet et les intérêts surtout pour le Canada. And just to be clear, the first objective, the first principle of these projects is it's in the interests of Canada. The interests of Canada making us stronger, making us more independent, the interests of Indigenous peoples, the interest of building a more sustainable society. We're in a position here, I mean, I wanted to come here because this, the scale of and the breadth of the opportunity in northern British Columbia is immense if we work together to help unlock it. Not every aspect, not every project, not every mine will go forward because people have to be behind them and they have to be the right ones. But by unlocking transmission, clean power, by unlocking the last mile to some of these mines, and by conserving a huge area of this province, we can create a balance that is not just in the interest of this generation, but many generations to come. That's what we're discussing. That's what the project office is going to review, and we'll take the decision with full information together. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. This puts an end to our press conference. This can be a conférence de presse.